So I make this running joke all the time about how I refuse to dance on TikTok. And I think the joke is so old now because TikTok really has gone so far above and beyond that. But that's part of why I'm super excited to talk to Tony Naro today about how to start marketing your firm. And then, of course, the TikTok growth tips that don't necessarily involve being a 16-year-old girl who dances on TikTok. So for those of you that don't know Tony, he's a senior attorney at Bernazzani. I'm going to
Bernazzani.
One more time?
Bernazzani.
There we go. I was like, there's too many Z's in there. You ever see what's the movie Billy Madison where she makes him write in cursive with the Z's?
Yeah.
That's how I feel with the firm name. So his practice is focused on criminal defense and family law. Also handles state Supreme Court appeals. Attorney Naro has nearly a decade and a half of experience helping those in crisis navigate the legal system. And honestly, like if you're dealing with people in crisis, criminal and family tend to be exactly where all those things go. So makes perfect sense. Prior to that, spent 12 years as a public defender, entered private practice in just 2 short years has a thriving practice with a wait list for new clients. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm super excited to have this chat. So I was a prosecutor, but similar story other than on the opposite side from there. But I just feel like there's so many attorneys I talk to that have all of the requisite legal experience from the state attorney's office, PD's office, whatever it is. And then they go into private practice and you're like, oh my God, there's 14,000 other jobs I've never learned. I've never been trained for. So I always love talking to my fellow former government attorneys as we make the transition into private practice. So we're going to dive in with Tony today on how to start marketing your firm, specifically on those TikTok growth tips. But before that, I want to talk about our last episode, different last episode. So we had Tom Lambot on. Tom does cybersecurity. So we talked about some of the most common issues that we're seeing. We talked about some of the tips, especially as we're coming back from being remote or staying remote or, going countrywide or globally with a lot of law firms, as we've seen all the different pivots over the last, at this point, 2.5 years. So really interesting chat with Tom about some of the things that we can do to prevent cybersecurity attacks. And then obviously, if you want to hire somebody to help you with it, talked about Beauregard, which I will confirm with Tom, that is the only lawyer-specific small firm option that I've come across as well. So super cool to hear. But enough about that. I want to hear from Tony. So we got a little bit about the story from being a former public defender, but tell me a little bit more about the nitty gritty of that for anybody who hasn't had the wonderful opportunity to experience government criminal defense work.
Sure. So in New Hampshire, which is where I was a public defender, it's actually not government work per se. It's nonprofit work. The New Hampshire Public Defender, they're the largest nonprofit law firm in the entire state. And I think technically the largest law firm in the state as well. We do pretty much every single criminal case where a person is indigent, barring a conflict of interest. So I was there for 12 years. I did everything from DWIs to murder. Caseloads vary, but we'd be looking at an average of 80 plus cases at a time. So it's tough work, but we have one of the best programs in the country here, great training. And when you go into private practice, the best lawyers are former public defenders, in my opinion.
There we go. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about what made you want to take the leap after 12 years?
Well, baby number 2 made me want to take the leap. My practice was right where I wanted it at the public defender. I was doing Supreme Court appeals and homicides and violent felonies almost exclusively, which as a public defender is kind of my sweet spot. And we were in the middle of the pandemic. They started opening up daycares again, and you're just looking at the balance sheets, and you're in the red every month with 2 kids and in childcare. And the public defender, they pay okay as far as public defenders go around the country, but it wasn't great. So I had to go into private practice and make that jump. So
you got to go into private practice, not had to, got to.
I got to. I'm very happy now. I mean, the diversity of your practice in private practice is great. There are some things you just can't help your clients with as a public defender where you want to. And here I can do everything. And adding the family component to my practice has been really great. One, getting into a new area of law that isn't it's not very complex. There are learning curves as with any new area of law, but they merge. And a lot of people will hire me because I can do both. I can handle the domestic violence case and a divorce.
Yeah, I know. So from the Florida standpoint, I mean, I think our most common one's the driver's license issue. So like you'll get the client on the no valid driver's license, driver license suspended DUI, and then, as a public defender, you can't help them on some of the civil stuff for the license, even though like it's Florida, we have no real consistent public transportation. So I always love hearing from the criminal attorneys who are more excited to be able to take that holistic problem solving view with their client. Because obviously, look, for anybody sitting out there thinking most criminal defendants are genuinely bad people, please take a moment and actually check out the system. You will find a very different person than you might have expected.
Yeah, I always say my job exists because good people have bad moments in their life. And you have to kind of help usher them through that. And absolutely, with the license loss in New Hampshire, you lose your license, that's an economic death sentence. There's no public transportation. There might be a bus running up and down Main Street here in Nashua, but that's few and far between. And so to be able to get into the DMV, do those hearings, and help people with everything, because a criminal case impacts your life in so many ways outside of the criminal courtroom. Professional licensing, for example, that's another thing. I've represented teachers, therapists. It's nice to be able to have one captain steering the ship. It's also a privilege for people who have money to hire me. That's the other thing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, I think any tried and true attorney who switched over to private practice along those lines is going to tell you, you have the same opportunity for great lawyers at the public defender's office, at the state attorney's office, at the nonprofit firm that does the public defender work. You just don't get to pick who it is. And so it's kind of that luck of the draw, or buying access to you having a much lower caseload than, 80 something serious cases at any given time.
Right. Yeah. We have an indigent defense crisis going on in New Hampshire, for example. So, I had a client come in recently to hire me, and they said, I've had a public defender for 2 weeks and I can't get them on the phone. I said, that's not their fault. They want to talk to you. It's just your court date's not until November. And
right.
So, and they said, well, I want a phone call within 24 hours. I said, well, you pay for that, but I'm happy to do that. And I'm able to manage my caseload so I can give clients that level of service. But yeah, I agree. I just had somebody who couldn't hire me. And I said, the person that you were assigned to is phenomenal, and I'd hire them if I could. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to me. So you make this transition. And so I guess it's a little bit different in Florida, where they actually have a public defender's office versus the nonprofit law firm. So did you do any marketing in those 12 years as a public defender?
Zero.
Okay.
Zero. Yeah. No need to market. You have so many cases coming at you. You can't, they're just all assigned. So there's no need to market. There's no need to network. I'm a type A person. I'm always shaking hands and meeting people and helping collaborate. So people know who I am. But it was never with a purpose to market and get my name out there. That was something new to me coming into the business.
So that's what I want to talk about. Like, walk me through that, mental transition of, yeah, sure, I've gone to these bar events, whatever, but now, I need something out of it.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of time to figure out what the right thing to do is. And I'll say most of my caseload right now are referrals. I will take criminal cases that aren't referrals, but anything that's a family case is generally a referral. And again, most of my criminal cases are referrals. But the way I got there was, the first thing I did was I asked my brother, who's a physical therapist, what do you do to get your name out there? And he said, oh, join BNI. So I joined a BNI networking group. And I met some really nice people, but I found, that wasn't for me. But I got a sense of what networking was. Joined another organization, USA 500, which has been just phenomenal for me. I think they actually just opened up a chapter in West Palm in Florida.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And so I was doing that. But then a good friend of mine who you may know, Josh Goldstein, over at Gold Law. He does immigration in LA and Boston. He's a big YouTuber. And he said, Tony, you got to start making videos and you got to go on TikTok. I said, TikTok? He said, what do you want me to do? Like chug a thing of shaving cream and tell someone to hire me for a DWI? I'm not going on TikTok. And he said, you don't know what you're talking about. Go on TikTok. So I went on TikTok. I perused the app a little bit and I learned that it has matured over the years. And I'm a regular user now, of course. And so I said, Josh, okay, I like TikTok. I see some of the lawyers on it. I don't necessarily like what they're doing, but I get it. But nobody in New Hampshire, nobody that I even know, even in Mass, uses TikTok. And he said, exactly.
There we go. So I want to dive into that in a little bit more detail, but I do want to give a little feedback on. So you're talking about BNI, so Business Network International, those sort of leads groups. And I always go back to, like, for business law and estate planning, I think they're fantastic. But from the criminal defense side, like, is somebody really reaching out to their I don't know, their health insurance person, like, hey man, I got arrested for a DUI? Is somebody really reaching out to their landscaping person, like, oh my God, my wife just got arrested for whatever? So you really have to think about, like, do you do the kind of law where professionals are going to talk about their problems that will lead to your solutions, versus from that criminal and family? I'm sure there are plenty of attorneys killing it there. I just think that's, not a commonly discussed thing among the BNI audience, versus estate planning versus business law versus that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I had some cases come from BNI, and it was always a friend of a friend of a friend. So it just happened to be because I know you, not because of your professional sphere, that I'm getting the referral. And that's where I came to learn, and BNI helped me figure that out, is that you have to figure out, where are your referrals coming from? And my referrals come from other attorneys, CPAs, people at big firms. And that's why, USA 500, I think it's like 80% or 60% attorneys and CPAs. And you have to have, 15 years of experience to be a member. And there are some exceptions. You can be a younger member with 10 years plus. But those relationships that I have been building were the most important. And that's, so yeah, you have to figure out for yourself, right? If you do wills and, the estate planning, even divorce, sometimes family law, BNI might work for you. For the criminal stuff, it didn't really help, because the other thing is, people have criminal cases and they are embarrassed. Right. So it's not something they're going to broadcast to just anyone, right? But they will call the attorney who did their will and say, hey.
Also comes up when it comes time to ask for reviews. If you only do criminal law, people become a little bit more hesitant. Whereas if you've got, a larger practice, like, oh yeah, Tony helped me through a case. It was really serious. He took it great, whatever.
Yeah. I generally don't ask my criminal defense clients for reviews. And some leave them for me regardless, which is very nice.
Yeah.
But generally the reviews I have are the family law cases. And I always tell people, don't put anything about your case, just how is it to work with me? That's what I want people in the world to know. What kind of person am I? They can look at my credentials and figure out my skills pretty quickly, but what's it like to work with the lawyer? That's what I think is important, especially for somebody trying to find a lawyer. Are they going to call you back? Are they attentive? Are they on top of their game? Or are you just going to be talking to their secretary or paralegal the whole time because they're too busy for you? So that's what I'm looking for. But yeah, no, and I actually have had people say, look, your credentials are all criminal defense, but all your reviews are family law. What's going on? And I explain that's the nature of Google reviews. People in civil cases are more likely to leave them because they're less embarrassing to a degree.
Makes total sense. Yeah, I'm waiting for the criminal defense attorney to parade out, like, really wanted to murder my spouse, spoke to so-and-so, now I feel confident doing it. Like, that's not the review that anybody wants or will happen.
Right.
I love it. All right. So I want to get back to the TikTok thing. So Josh Goldstein gives you this insight. You're diving into the platform. Before you committed to posting TikTok videos, what about the platform appealed to you, or what made you convinced that he was correct?
So I wasn't sure, to be quite frank. What he did was he set me up with this company called, I think it's called That Video Thing. And they were doing a free video just to try it out. So I did a video with them. I posted it on TikTok. I posted it on YouTube. And then I made a couple of my own after that. And I wasn't sold on the platform. I wasn't sold on Josh, but I started to do some research. And what I had found was that in December of 2021, TikTok was the most visited website over Google for the first time in history. And then I started realizing, wait a second, this is where people are getting their information from now. These are really, I'm starting to use the platform to get recipes, to do fun science experiments with my kid. I'm starting to do my own searches on this thing. And, maybe Josh is up to something here. Maybe he's onto something. Maybe he's right. Because if somebody said to you, 20 years ago, hey, if you just start a website, you can be the #1 hit on Google for DWI law in New Hampshire. And I said, I don't know about this Google stuff. Okay, I'll try it, right? It would be stupid not to, right? So I said, you know what? I'm not going to make that mistake. If TikTok keeps going on the way it's going on, if it keeps growing and expanding, I'm right now, if you search New Hampshire criminal defense, New Hampshire DWI attorney, I'm the hit. I'm the only hit. And so if people continue to use that resource, it's going to work out for me very well. And if not, I mean, I have 50,000 followers. They all know not to consent to a search. I think I've done some, I think that's a good PSA. So
There
good.
you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned the recipes and the science experiments. So that's my TikTok feed. Like I'm right there with you on those, which is funny because Greg, who you guys can't see but is producing the show, Greg is all about the prison talk videos. It is so fun. He'll like send these to me about like, 15 guys in prison dancing, and I'm like, that's not the experience that I've ever had, visiting clients in jail. But God bless them. I guess technically they're committing a felony by having the phone, but so be it.
Yeah. No, but it's such a great platform. And when you think too about, my ideal clients, right? So college students who are getting in trouble for DWIs or open containers or under 21s, hazing, assaults, DV stuff. If that is their platform where they're getting the information, I need to go to them. I can't expect them to use the same information sources that I use as a 40-something-year-old, right? And also we have to recognize that video is changing. I mean, when Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, right, or Meta, whatever they want to call themselves now, when Instagram says, okay, this photo app is now turning into a video app, wake up. That's the future. These people don't make decisions, just like that on, billion-dollar companies. They're switching their platform to video because video is what matters. And TikTok's great too, because if you go on a YouTube video, I can listen to Josh talk on his YouTube video for 20 minutes. I don't have 20 minutes. I might have 1 to 3 minutes. And that's what TikTok limits you, right? And so people are going there too, because they can get good information quickly. And then you have the algorithm and how it decides who's going to send you what videos you're going to see. And so that's also helpful. Though I'm no expert. I'm still learning with everybody else.
Hey, this is what I tell people. You're never going to understand 100% of social media because social media will change too quickly for that. So you get the best practices in place, you stay on top of, whatever comes here and there, but ultimately, like, who cares? You're getting out helpful information. You've got a client, you've got an ideal client in mind who's on the platform, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
And it's kind of like, you did this too, I'm sure. How do you become a good trial attorney? You sit in court. You watch other attorneys. You pick up what's good. You drop what's bad. Same thing on social media. I look at other attorneys. What do I like that you're doing? What don't I like? One attorney I followed, I put out a video. I got 20,000 views pretty quickly. He put out almost the same video right after me. That's a great compliment, right? He saw I was doing something right. So there are plenty of users. So I don't worry about copycats or anything like that. I'll copycat, but that's what you got to do. The key to success is watching what other people do and listen, right?
Well, and I love the fact that you really boil this back down though to your ideal client who's on the platform. Like you've got that younger person in mind, you've got the college person in mind, you've got the stuff over there. And I think that's a huge component that everybody needs to think about. To go back to the BNI example, if you are that estate planning attorney, if you're working with people in their 60s who have $15 million more in assets, TikTok may not be the right platform for you. There may be something else where you can still jump on the video feed, but in a location that more hits your clients.
Yeah. Though for trust in the states, I think a lot of people leave this untapped. How about estate planning for college kids, right? If you're off in college and you get hurt, do you have a healthcare proxy? Forget your will, forget your assets. But you know what? You have student debt that somebody co-signed for you. What's going to happen to that? So, there's definitely a market there if you want to go out there. But you're right. And I've had a lot of pushback from attorneys who have those higher income clients that say, my client, what are you doing on TikTok, Tony? You're not going to find anybody with any money. Well, first of all, I'm not looking for people, right? I really don't view it as advertising. I'm just trying to get my name out there, get some good information out there. Maybe the people listen to me and don't end up with charges and then don't need me, which is like the ultimate goal in life, right? I don't need any more clients. The world doesn't need any more defendants. But you can get some good information out there. So even if you're $1 million trust and estates lawyer, throw some tips out there for people. You never know where it'll lead.
But I like, so when I talked about the estate planning one, though, you tied it back to the specific person, not the area of law, this is the part that kills me about marketing. When people are like, oh, my buddy does the same area of law as me and they're doing great on whatever. I'm like, but do they have the same client? If you're talking about that new parent, if you're talking about the college kid, that's a much different client, even if you're doing the same work as you would with the older person of ultra high net worth or, whatever. I don't even know what financial number hits ultra high net worth at this point. But I just think it's so smart that you really identified a person who's already using this platform who can benefit by your knowledge. And then you look at the intersection of those things in terms of, what videos to make or what information to share.
Yeah. Great.
So if you had a lawyer, if you were talking to a fellow attorney who found a similar lack of their location, lack of their area on the platform, after that conversation, making sure the potential client's there, what advice would you give them next?
Start making videos. And that's the hardest part. And for me, it was the biggest hump to get over because I said, I don't have a video camera. I don't even have time. What am I going to, I can't edit. And again, going back to Josh, he said, Tony, what do you use to talk to me? My phone. You have an iPhone? Yeah. Tony, my video that had, 1 million something views on YouTube, I made it with my phone. I make all my videos with my iPhone. This is all you need. And to demonstrate the point, in the 5 minutes before I signed on to this, I said, I'll make a quick TikTok video just to show everyone how easy it is. So I just made a quick, 3-minute video on DWIs when you're sleeping in your car. And it's just that easy. The first video I had that went viral was like 1.3 million views. I did that after court in my car. Okay, one take, uploaded it, and I'm done. And I didn't really put any thought behind it outside of the knowledge I had. I said, well, this is something I'm interested in. We'll talk about, whether or not to consent to a search. And so you just have to start making videos. The other thing is you can't sacrifice the good for the perfect. Okay. And that video that had 1.3 million views, I misspoke very, very slightly. And I knew I misspoke when I said it. And I just fixed it, in the next few sentences later. Now, I could have deleted that video and done something else, but maybe it wouldn't have gotten the same traction, right? Maybe it wouldn't have got the same traction. And you'll always get the commenters who say, oh, you slipped up here. And you know what I say? I comment back and I say, thanks for catching that. And you know why? Because that's now 2 comments in the feed. Because TikTok doesn't care about the content of your comments. They care about the engagement, right? So, and that's the other thing. Don't worry about people. Don't worry about the commenters, right? Good or bad, right? Controversial people, those get hits. The only comments I care about is if they're racist, misogynist, I block them, they're off, right? But if somebody says, hey man, fix your tie, comment, thanks for that tip. Now I have 2 comments, right? So you can't take yourself too seriously on this platform, Jordan, is what I think I would say. And but yeah, just get out there and just make some videos. I have an Excel spreadsheet of video topics as well that I use. And I don't use it religiously, but it's good when I'm just kind of in a funk and I'm like, what should I talk about today? What do people care about? I've already thought about what people care about. Right?
So when you have an idea, you're adding it to the Excel spreadsheet for later, or when you have an idea, you're filming it and then you're just filling in the Excel spreadsheet?
For later.
Okay.
For later. And I have 2 columns, blog, video. And so I just put an X next to it just to make sure I hit it. And to be quite frank, you can do the same topic over and over again, right? Because if you have a video that hits and it's good information, at some point it's going to be in the bottom of your TikTok feed. And some people will go through your feed, but after a certain point, they just don't, right? So absent search, they're not going to see that information again. So it's good just to do a refreshed video. Even if it's the same type of content, maybe it's just a different background that you're in. Maybe I'm not in my car. Maybe I'm outside the courthouse. But it's good information and people will watch it.
How frequently are you doing that? Every month, every 3 months, 6 months? Like what's the...
So, how often do I post? It is sporadic because quite frankly, I'm super busy in my practice. I try to post once every 2 weeks if I can. There are people who say you got to post every day. at least one video a day. And I know attorneys who do that on the feed. But if you look at my videos, for the most part, I'm getting at least 10,000 views on each video I throw out there. At least, some will hit 250,000 and it is what it is. But I think that's because I put out quality stuff that people care about. If I'm just doing a video every single day, replying to random comments to people, that's not necessarily going to be relevant to them. And it's not something that I want to do. And I think the most important thing when you're deciding what you're going to post is don't worry about what other people want you to post. Post what you want to post, right? Like if you're a cook the food that you love, not the food you think people are going to eat. Because if you love it, people will love it back, right? So same thing with your social media content. If you're putting something out there that has purpose because you believe in it and you think it's interesting, that's going to come through in your content.
I love that. And so, but you were talking about like reusing the same content idea or topic or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't have a perfect cycle. What I will do is I will go back through my feed and I will say, you know what, this video did really well. I think I'm going to post another video about it. Or this video didn't do well at all, but I think it should have. So I'm going to try this again. And again, I've been doing this for about 10 months now. Okay. So I'm not even in the need to repeat cycle.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to get there soon because there are topics I want to address again. But I've just been, blessed with really good responses, 10 months, 50,000 plus, followers, 140 something thousand likes, a lot of engagement, a lot of comments. And I think it's because, again, people see the information I'm putting out there as relevant. And I'm also just thinking, what do I want to know if I'm not a lawyer, right? Canine searches, for example. When can a dog sniff my car? Or should I consent to a breath test, right? That's a video. I'll probably do another one again soon. I can't do that more enough because it's just such an important topic. And it's the biggest question that people ask.
Right.
And I think it's the question that has the worst answer on social media. If you look at all the attorneys, and I don't know where you come down on this as a criminal defense attorney, but every video you look at, they say, always refuse the breathalyzer, always refuse the breathalyzer. And I always think to myself, what's going to happen when somebody calls your office one day and says, hey man, I refused, I still got arrested for DV, and now I lost my license from the DMV for the refusal.
Yep.
You didn't tell me this would happen. Right. And so it's that you have to be aware of as a consumer of social media. Is this full advice? If it's a 5-second video, it's probably not giving you the full story. So if you look at my, should I blow videos, I don't tell you one way or the other. I tell you the consequences of both and you figure it out. Right.
Which is always interesting to me. So we're going to get super technical here for a second. So in the state of Florida, there's case law that says if you request an attorney in that moment, you're not entitled to one, that it's not an important enough area of the case to prevent it. And so I'm always like, it's insane to me. Like if you get this video where it's like, hey man, I know what you're saying, cop, this is a really tough decision to make. I want to talk to a lawyer. Well, you can't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but like, if I blow under, what's going to happen? Well, you're already arrested. All right. So I can't talk to a lawyer to figure it out. I'm already under arrest. It doesn't matter what I blow. So what the heck? And I think that's a much different refusal than, F you pig or whatever else.
Right.
But it's just so interesting to like expect a, potentially intoxicated person with no legal training in that moment to make some sort of decision. Just always cracked me up, regardless of what side I was on in the day.
And in New Hampshire, your refusal can be used against you as consciousness of guilt.
Yeah. You guys have implied whatever. We won't go down this.
We won't go. Yeah.
So, but in terms of the content you're sharing. So I love the concept you're talking about, what does somebody who's not a lawyer need to know? What's in my wheelhouse? Are you staying 100% in the family and criminal zone, or are you branching out from those topics a little bit, or like I'm
just doing criminal on TikTok.
Okay.
I'm not doing family. And again, that's just criminal is the majority of my practice. And that's really what I want to grow the most. And, I do like doing the family stuff, but, I have a very specific client that I will allow to take a family case on. So that's pretty much referral. You can't just call me and hire me for your divorce. Yeah. You have to generally give me a name.
So from that content standpoint, then like 100% information I want my potential future criminal defense clients to know.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
absolutely. Yeah. And there's when I was at the public defender, we'd always have these people who would consent to searches, and there would just be like this ton of drugs in the car, a ton, right? And you might say, I would have had a suppression issue. Why'd you consent? And so my colleague Jeffrey and I, we used to joke, like, maybe we could put in for a billboard that just says "Don't consent." And when I made the first "Don't consent" video on YouTube or on TikTok, and it got all the views, I said, "This is our billboard. This is our billboard. People now know, and they're going to share this with their friends. And knowledge is power, and they're not giving this stuff out. The police, the government, they're not telling you, hey, if you don't consent, you're going to get arrested. That's not how it works. They're going to have to go and get a warrant. Just because they get a warrant still doesn't mean you can't suppress that evidence, right? So I just made a video, actually. Supreme Court case came down in New Hampshire, and I held it up and I said, this is an exact reason why you don't consent to search. So I spoke about the case very briefly, and then I repeated my content and circled back. So that's another example. Find an opportunity to revisit your prior content, but it's still a different video, right?
Well, and let's be honest, the downside of the law that it is constantly changing is the upside of the content creation about the law that it is constantly changing.
Yes, absolutely.
So what, like, in terms of, I know you talked about the mindset of, being okay with the comments and kind of pushing those things along. What about in terms of the performance of the videos? Forget I need a video editor, but like, what do you have to say to people who are like, do I look good on video, or how do I act on video, or, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I'd say look at my ugly mug on the screen. Sometimes my tie is crooked. Again, a lot of times I'm making these videos when I got out of court. I made a video once I got out of a 2-day hearing and I was exhausted. And I said, the hell with it. I'm making a video about these kangaroo court hearings so people know what to do when DCYF comes knocking on your door. And they don't end up like my poor client did. And I was all disheveled. I was frustrated, right? But that gives your video authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. That shows the consumer this isn't a commercial. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to share information and opinions, and they can relate to you. I'm always in a suit and tie. That's just my outfit. Okay. It's always a white shirt and a solid tie because I can't match to save my life. But, you look at Josh's videos. He's rarely in a suit or tie. But he's giving good information, and people can relate to him. And if they can relate to you, they're going to trust you. If they can trust you, they'll follow you, and they'll tell their friends to follow you. And that's what matters. And so in terms of my performance, and if I really misspeak, the most I'll do on a video is maybe like 2 or 3 takes. But usually it's just one and done. And I got to get back to work and focus on the people that I'm taking care of.
There we go.
It's a powerful medium.
So, all right. Any other advice that you want to give to somebody, beginning this journey?
Yeah. Again, just get out there, watch other people's stuff, figure out what you like that they do, figure out what you don't like that they do, and don't be intimidated by the guys who are all, what is it, Lawyer Mike or something, who's on Instagram, or he's got 1 million followers, he's got all this video editing. Look, that's his job. He's getting paid. Okay. I don't think he's representing people in court. So don't worry about them. Look at guys like me and see what they're doing. And that's probably where you're going to see success. And also don't get discouraged. Look, if you don't go viral within the first year, that's life. Think of a referral partnership. You don't really start to get solid referrals from somebody for at least a year because you have to build up trust. So that's what you're doing with social media. You're building up trust, you're building up content, and it'll come. Don't get discouraged.
So that's great lead into my question. So, because I want to flip that in from the opposite standpoint. So 10 months, 50,000 followers. When did you know this was working? Like, what was the moment where you're like, all right, I'm onto something here?
I would say I think it was like my 5th video where I all of a sudden I had 5,000 views. I was like, oh wow, look at that, 5,000 views. And then I went to court and I came back, and my paralegal, she came in, she said, Tony, you have 20,000 views on your video. And over the next 2 weeks, it was crazy. It was kind of fun for the office because every day they were just following me and saying, "Oh my God, you have 6 figures now." And when I had 100,000 views, I thought that was it. And then before you know it, it's 1.3, and we had a 1,000,000 view party, at the office, and it was a good morale booster. But that's when I said, "Hey, I'm saying something that people are interested in. It doesn't matter that I'm just doing it in my car. People don't care about that. They care about the content."
Yeah.
And they also know that I must be a busy lawyer if I'm not just, if I'm not in the studio making these videos, right?
It's interesting. I mean, I've heard from so many people about that, like that transition to Instagram into TikTok. So, I guess really Instagram became more video heavy after TikTok. But in theory, that you had these people that were like, oh, now I need to actually say something. Like, it was one thing to be on Instagram and just be posting these beautiful pictures. Now I need like some actual personality to go to TikTok. So it's cool that you've seen the benefit in the opposite, where it's like, oh yeah, this dude's in his car, but his information is so good, and that becomes something that's actually a positive in your favor, as opposed to that might have been, a negative on Instagram.
Yep. And a quick tip, I also put my videos on Instagram. I used to do it on YouTube. I'm too busy. So I kind of let my YouTube channel slack, but post your videos on Instagram as well. You can do it automatically through the app, though you get a TikTok watermark. And there are some people that say that doesn't help you when it comes to the algorithm on Instagram. They don't want to be promoting another company. So Make a video on your phone and upload each individually. The other big thing for TikTok, if I may, hashtags. Hashtags matter. Okay. And I learned that the hard way, where I wasn't really aggressively hashtagging my videos, and I wasn't really coming up in searches as I thought I would, even after I had some big videos. And then once I started to refine my hashtags, it was like SEO 101, and it's up there now. So if you think of the search terms you want, be overbroad and put as many as you want, because again, on TikTok, they're not reading the description. They don't care if you're annoying and put 50 tags on your video, right? The users don't care about that, but the search cares.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So as many as possible, or as many as fit, or what's?
I put as many that are reasonably relevant to my video, right? So today, the video I did on DWI, when falling asleep in your car, right? I did New Hampshire criminal defense, New Hampshire criminal defense attorney, New Hampshire DUI attorney, New Hampshire DWI attorney, DUI, DWI, so on and so forth. So they're all relevant, and they're all potentially things that somebody might search for and find that video and then find me.
Gotcha. Makes total sense.
Yes.
And so what about any other tips along those lines, like trending audio that you're using, or anything else?
I've played around a little bit with the audio, or some of the the fun overlooks. I think when they had one for the Oscars, so you could hold up an Oscar. So I actually did like a Will Smith video, and it was just because I was bored. And Josh, interestingly, said, "Are you watching the Oscars?" I said, "Of course not. I'm working. I have better things to do." He said, "Turn it on." So I said, "All right, I'll make a video about this. Will Will Smith get charged?" And you could hold up an Oscar. But honestly, I don't have time for those gimmicks. They're fun once in a while, but my most successful videos have not been playing with any of those sounds.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So then I want to back up to link this to something you said before, because you talked about most of your cases coming in from referrals.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the TikTok videos, are you also making videos towards referral sources? Is that overlap, or are those different things?
So can you just ask the question again? I kind of missed it.
Yeah. So you talked about so many of your cases coming in from referrals. So from the TikTok side, are you making videos with an eye on referral sources? Is it an overlap between the referral sources, the clients? Are they different strategies? Like, how does that play in?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is more of a social media platform where I'm thinking about my referral sources. TikTok, I'm probably thinking more about the consumer. Like, for example, I was at a gas station in Seabrook, New Hampshire 6 months ago, and somebody's pumping their gas next to me and said, "Hey, are you a lawyer?" And I said, "Yeah, I must look the part. I am." And he said, "I follow you on TikTok. You're awesome." Right?
There you go.
If that guy or any of his friends ever need a lawyer, they're going to call me. Right? I got a case off of TikTok not too long ago. Somebody reached out to me, emailed me, and said, "I have a criminal case. I'd like to hire you." And I said, "Well, I can refer you to somebody. I'm not, taking new cold calls right now." And they said, "Oh, please, I follow you on TikTok." I said, "Wait a second. You follow me on TikTok? Why don't you lead with that? Of course I'm going to take your case." Got him in the office the next day. So, I've seen direct results from it. But again, it's not so much that I'm advertising and hoping people are going to hire me because I'm on TikTok. It's more about getting good information out to the community and having some name recognition. So if they ever do need me, they'll at least have someone that they know that they can go to, and they kind of get a sense of who I am, right? Rather than just going on Google and clicking on a website and reading a bio that's very biased, of course, right? We're not going to write a constructive criticism bio of ourselves on our website. So when they can see me on the video, they can hear what I have to say. They can say whether or not they like what I hear. I got a guy that just hired me from Twitter. And he says, look, I follow you. I like what you have to say. I like your perspective. And I want you to represent me. Great. Now you know me. You're hiring me. And those are cold calls. I don't treat those as cold calls because those people want me.
Right.
Like, they know me. They're not just kicking tires. They've thought about the type of lawyer they want to represent them and fight for them in court. And for me, that means a lot.
Which that would be a great, so when those people come in, you have to ask them how many other lawyers are they following on that social media platform. I'd be curious to hear like 3, or
yeah, right.
Or so. All right. So then I think you touched on this before about getting some pushback from referral sources. Maybe that was just from people talking about are you getting pushback from referral sources from the TikTok stuff?
Yeah, so I've gotten a lot of skepticism, and then especially in the beginning, skepticism and then some pushback. And again, it generally came from people who do the 10 plus million client, they're not in the same trenches as I am, right? And so they also have a different view of TikTok. A lot of them are older folks, and so they don't go on the platform. I said, do you even have TikTok on your phone? No. I said, listen, I was skeptical too, but at least I downloaded the thing to see what it was all about, right? So I encourage people to do that. But I don't think anyone respects me less for doing it.
Gotcha.
I had a good friend out in Portsmouth say, Tony, I don't get your marketing, but it works.
Which is probably the ultimate compliment, right? And be like, you're not my ideal client, so good.
Right. Well, it was fellow criminal defense attorney who I respect very much, and
Gotcha.
And that was the point. And so I'm giving out good information. And what's funny is on one of my on my Instagram feed, a colleague who I respect very highly. I won't say who they are to out them, but they are probably one of the smartest people in New Hampshire when it comes to criminal law and constitutional law. And I say, every time you like one of my videos, I have a huge wave of panic leave my body because I know it's all accurate, right? Because lawyers are always second guessing themselves. Should I have said this? And so I said, every time you're like my canary in the coal mine. Every time except for good signs. So every time you like my video, that's affirmation. So if you don't like my video, just know I'm watching and I'm going to be self-conscious until you do.
I always love the lawyers who will comment on other lawyers' videos and be like, well, but you didn't explain the 17 exceptions that might apply in this one specific. And you're like, yeah, listen, bro, it's a 2-minute video. Like, all right, now I'm gonna make a video about the exception, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say don't try to get in on other people's videos through the comments. I've had other lawyers like tag me in TikTok videos because they're like, oh, I'm going to leave a comment and I'm going to tag you here, and maybe people will go to my account from your video. I mean, don't do that. If you have something meaningful to say, certainly say it, right? If you want to engage in the conversation, but don't engage in self-promotion in the comments on another attorney's social media. I just think that's just poor form. I mean, there are plenty of clients out there for all of us. If you're good at what you do, you're going to have a good business, right? You don't have to worry about what your competitors are doing. Who cares? I help my colleagues when they ask me for advice, like, how do I get my TikTok to blow up? How do I post on Instagram? I'm going to help them because I want my colleagues to do as well as I'm doing, right? I mean, that's how I live.
But Tony, that's an abundance mindset thing. You're dealing with a lot of lawyers with scarcity mindsets. So,
right.
Well, I will also throw in, don't be afraid to just comment on somebody else's video. Like, dude, this is a great video. Really, thank you for sharing. It was, like you can build each other up in a way that is, it doesn't have to be so nitpicky to, oh my God, did you talk about the case law of blah, 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 where it found this holding and whatever.
Right.
This in a supportive way of each other also.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to make sure that we cover on, starting to market your firm and some TikTok growth tips as we get towards the end here?
Yeah, I think that if you want to start to get, it's kind of, I guess I would call it a cheat, and I can't say it would work, but one idea I have, and I don't need to do it, but is you can buy TikTok ads. Like, you can promote your videos, and you can do it for pretty short money. So if you just want to build up your first 5,000 followers, right, or build up your first set of likes, you can promote your video, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. I was looking at some of the ads. You buy tokens, I think for a couple $100, you can get, 20,000 people to look at your video. And if you have a good video, something that you really like and you think could take off, maybe invest a couple $100 and just see if that works. And I think TikTok might like that secretly too. I don't know if they tell us, right? But I think that if you buy in it's kind of, was it Publishers Weekly, the sweepstakes. Well, you don't have to subscribe to the magazine, but you got to think your chances of winning are better if you do, right?
The only thing I'll say along those lines, though, is if you go on the platform, you post 10 videos, you start dumping $100 a month, and then you stop, the platforms tend to be like, well, why did you stop? So, I always tell people, I like the idea of, maybe it's $5 for the first week, maybe it's $10 for the second week, building into something that, you can hold on long term. Because obviously, look, they want you to stay on the platform. They want you to be successful, so you continue to advertise on the platform. But if you use that to, I'm going to buy a bunch of ads till I get up to 10,000 followers or 50,000 or 100,000, and then you cut it, they're going to say, well, now you're not worth it. You're not worth anything anymore. So
there was one more thing that I wanted to point out, and I don't, it's called beacons.ai. So it's a website, it's free. And I created, and I don't know if I could show you on this, but I create a Beacons AI link. And so it links people, and I put that in my Twitter bio. So it links people to all of my social media, my TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. They can follow me. They can sign up for a mailing list. So it's a great way. So rather than putting your firm hyperlink in the TikTok profile, put a Beacons link in your profile. That way they get exposed to all of you, right?
Which sounds like pretty close to Linktree, or even Canva. So you can actually design some Canva templates to do a very similar thing,
right?
And just link that way.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we'll come back for our final of the wisdom biggest takeaway, but let me talk about our next episode a week from now, next Monday. So we're already October 3rd. It is already October. We have hit the end of the year. At 1:30, so 15 minutes earlier than you watched this episode. So next Monday at 10:03, we've got Robert Hanna on. Robert's a legal recruiter out of the UK, so he's got a really cool British accent, if that's your thing. But ultimately, he's got a really good thing to share with us. He's going to talk about how we build a happier legal community, one lawyer at a time. Robert has a really cool community together on Discord, centering around some rally coin. You got to check in if you have any interest in hanging out with other lawyers in a way where you will build each other up and be happier to each other as opposed to tearing each other down. You got to tune in to listen to some of the stuff that Robert's doing. That'll be next Monday, 10/3, 1:30 Eastern time. All right. With that, Tony, look, you have dropped so many nuggets of wisdom here, but if somebody's been listening for the last, whatever it is, 55 minutes, and they remember nothing you said except what's here, what would be the most important takeaway, the biggest nugget of wisdom to help more lawyers be the exhibit A of a successful attorney such as yourself?
You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You know the law. You're a good lawyer. People are going to hire you. You just got to believe in yourself.
There we go. I love it. All right.
I know it's cliche, but it's
true.
True.
Law school teaches us to think critically. Normally we apply that to ourselves. We then become our own worst enemies, being our biggest critical thinkers. And then we talk ourselves out of everything. So I think that is a huge, very important takeaway. All right. So for anybody watching, I guess if they're watching this on Facebook, you've got the links. But for anybody listening to this who wants to follow you on TikTok to see what you're doing in action, to not steal your ideas, but support you on the way and help them, convince them to do the same, what's the handle for them to check out?
It's call NH Naro.
Call NH Naro?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, thank you to everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you back next Monday, 1:30 Eastern time for Robert Hanna's talk on building a happier legal community, one lawyer at a time.
Good. Jordan, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, awesome time.